I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, I'm delighted to welcome back one of my favorite guests. Her name is Donna Lynd. She is a scriptwriter and playwright, and she has ventured into the world of mystery novels with her debut work, Leaving Innocence, a Gran Olson mystery. Set in Innocence, Arkansas, the story unfolds as Bass Olson, a brilliant but out-of-work software designer, returns home to unravel his uncle's mysterious death, deemed accidental years and years ago. Teaming up with his spirited grandmother, Gran Olson, a retired MASH nurse, they dive into a world of gangs, the KKK, and treacherous family dynamics using ingenuity, faith, and an unexpected inheritance to seek justice. We're delighted to have this wonderfully talented author join us once again on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and, importantly, purchasing her wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Donna, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My
It's
pleasure.
wonderful.
This book began as a screenplay, correct?
Yes.
Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
I had a chance to be part of an amazing university, a highly selective university, and I got to meet very many brilliant students. And though they're quite smart, a lot of them kind of had small lives. And when it came time for me to leave the university, it really laid on my heart about how our society kind of assumes because you're brilliant that your life will be perfect. And then taking some of my background, spending every summer in a very small place in northeastern Arkansas in my grandmother's Civil War home, it allowed me to kind of put together all these lovely elements about creating a murder mystery that would be narrated by a brilliant person who's quite brilliant, but really emotionally quite young. And so it was initially a pitch for a script. We were thinking that it would be probably a series. And my mentor said, well, you're going to need to probably write a book first so that people can understand. These characters they're wonderful, but they're so different. You can't just cut them out of a catalog. People that are identify, say, with our main character, Bass, who's actually our narrator, and then our hero who drives the story forward, that'd be our our grandmother character. She's not your regular grandmother. So I think you're gonna have to write a book so that we can all identify. The good news is once we got the initial manuscript done and I could share it with people, lawyers and certainly police officers and some other tech people, they were like, you kind of captured something that no one's ever captured before. We really like it. So it was based on that. And then the fact that I love classic mysteries where you don't cheat the reader, that the whole time your reader actually is one of your real important characters. I was trying to draw each one into it. We're different in a regular mystery where someone is murdered and then you have all these lists of suspects and then you try and eliminate each one by each one. Ours is, because it was a good man, the more that we delve into it, the more we realize that wasn't a motivation and that didn't happen and that didn't happen. It's unique in that sense, so that people that have read a lot of mysteries get a little bit compelled because they figure after about chapter 3, I'm going to be able to figure out who did it, assuming they don't cheat at the end. This one was, the more they turn the pages, they're like, God, well, that wasn't it either. I wonder what was. So I feel like we're kind of entering a new field of that too. And we will continue to do that as our model. Our real life investigations into crimes, you kind of have a list of suspects, so likely things that happen. And if it's not readily apparent and you don't have the data to do a deep dive, a lot of times they become unsolved. We'll be doing that again, where we have a case. This is the next book that's coming out. It was a cold case. It's more than 40 years old. A very good man. He taught a lot of people that became judges and lawyers, and no one could figure out why he was murdered. And even to this day. And so I talked with them and they're like, oh, it must have been a random crime. Nobody can figure out why. And yet you look at all the elements, and I taught computers a long time. So looking at the details now from a computer point of view, where you can recreate the scene, the room, you can recreate the things that the coroners found. It's a whole different level now of being able to investigate all crimes. You realize that they did the best they could, but there were so many elements missing. And the fact that there's a completely different level of why this person is no longer alive. And let's determine that. And then in our case with Gran, she's able to offer $1 million reward. She lives very simply. Here is a windfall. And she just goes, I love justice. I've got to have this settled in my mind. And it's a unique ability, because even when you're dealing with people that have a lot of money, being willing to just quickly offer $1 million, most people can't do that, even
Right.
rich people.
Exactly.
So, and the fact that she's willing to live very simply so that that would continue. She's going to be nurturing this, let's like a gifting. It brings out the human nature of greed, where people will remember things that they might not remember otherwise, or care about things they might not remember otherwise. And they're willing to participate with Gran and Bass in the hope that maybe they could have this money. And so it's a kind of a different pace of exploration. It's not like I'm an investigator, I'm getting paid by the day to do this, or even I'm a policeman, it's up to my pride to get this solved. These two are very much like, you know what, we want justice. We don't
Yeah.
care where it's going to lead us. And we'll just see what the next day is going to unfold, or the next hour. We'll just be totally neutral and let's see where we go.
Absolutely. Justice is an end unto itself sometimes, and that is the case for Gran and Bass. Do you have a working title yet for the second book?
Oh, I've had an interesting week. You'll know what I know.
Yeah.
It's right now. I'm just tempted. We're calling it Innocence Waylaid, because
Yes.
it's that idea being that they're working their way back to innocence, and they're not going to quite make it, because there's going to be something that's going to keep them right outside.
Absolutely. Are your books loosely based or partially based on real life crimes?
Yes, they are. I actually am able to get the data. Sometimes it's the coroner report. Sometimes it's we call it GIS data, what was actually happening in those neighborhoods in terms of the construction, the lights, the population, the actual crime statistics, and then reading what the witnesses, if it was part of the police reports, and then just visualizing what it is that the investigators were asking, what the people were responding, and then you look at their reports and see, wouldn't it have been nice to have not only the person's response of what they thought that happened, but the actual data of what that room or what that street was actually like. So yeah, we do that. And for the most part, we fictionalize it. We call it credible fiction. So but yeah, it's and for a lot of people, it's interesting to be able to look at, say, the original coroner's reports of different crimes, and they show us that what initially was suggested as what happened couldn't actually be. If you you put it into the computer data and you put the person's height based on what it is and what would happen, it's like, I don't think that's exactly what would have been happening. So it's an interesting way. It's not a forensic where we're really doing this. It's credible fiction where we're taking what they thought happened, we're bringing in imaginary characters into imaginary place, and
Right.
we're
That also
making it
makes
work.
the writing process kind of brings it to a new level and makes it kind of fun in that you're not only creating a work of fiction, you're also in your own way investigating a real life crime. So that has that feel in your work. So it makes the work feel very real, very organic, as we like to say.
Thank you. Yes.
Um, but as you as a creator, it brings it to another level because it's not like, okay, let's see, and write whatever you want. You're kind of tied to, in part, a real life narrative and data and so forth. So I think that's fascinating. Now, you are first a screenwriter and a script writer. So it's got to be a natural that you'd love to see these made into films or a series, perhaps, right?
Hope so. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Have you done any work to pitch it to like any of the streaming networks or anything?
I haven't yet, which is why you guys are just such a wonderful part of my life.
Okay, great. And we'll give you a pitch right now. Hollywood, if you're listening, these would be great books to turn into a series with unique characters from a software engineer to a grandmother who is retired MASH nurse, and very, very unique in the landscape. That's for sure. What do you hope readers take from your novels?
I believe, and it's been very sweet because now I'm, getting cards and emails from people who are saying, I'm giving 4 of these to Christmas because this is giving friends of mine who have lost people and they've got stuck in their lives. They turn the pages and they realize that there's hope
Mm.
and that you don't have to be overwhelmed. That seems like the world is unjust, no one cares, and yet you can read through this and you feel like you're on an adventure with someone who shouldn't be having an adventure at all,
Yeah.
and you're able to play with sometimes kind of some mean people and yet still come out okay. So I think what I would be saying is definitely a form of hope. We want people walking away and going, you know, there's justice to be
Mm.
found, even if they haven't found it in decades. You know
Yeah.
what? There really is justice, and I think that's been one of the really sweet things that has come out for it. A lot of my readers are women. A lot of them are in certain places in their lives where they have suffered loss. So it's a reconciliation in their minds and their souls that you know what, your lack of justice was seen, and you know what, you can go on this adventure and feel like you've got closure.
Yeah.
So I would say that's it. It's in and someone willing to have justice at all costs, that they're not going to cut you short.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. It's a terrific book. I'm looking forward to the next book. I know you used to spend time in Arkansas growing up, and that's why you set the books in Arkansas, because it's a place that's much less changed by time,
yeah.
particularly the small towns of Arkansas, than is California, for example, or New York. Although you can find small towns throughout that are kind of untouched as well. Have you journeyed back to Arkansas, or at least, obviously, at least mentally, you're back there
Yeah.
thinking about it a lot? Tell us about that.
It is very is fun. It the fact and because my grandmother's home actually is a historic site, so different people have owned it. One woman took real serious care of making it a historical site, and I walked the land and I walked through the house. And of course, she was really interested in everything. And there was a time when I was a girl that they had to fix something like in an attic. Well, it was kind of an unknown attic. It was
Mm.
like one of kind of those secret things. And because it was real small, they lifted me up to be in this dark, dusty alcove that probably no one had stood in for, I don't know, probably well, maybe 100 years, but certainly 50 years. And I found a brick that a child had written in chalk, her name and the date. And and this lady's like, well, where is it? I go, I don't know. I was a kid. I just
Yeah,
found it.
exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Um, so I guess there's certain things that, yes, when I drive by these certain areas and I can hear the trees and the wonderful the bugs at night, all
Hmm.
that. And of course, not it's not that anymore. There's there's industrial
Right.
driving and so it's like, you know what, I just can't bear to have those sweet memories just blow away. Let's see if we
Yeah.
can capture some of it.
Yeah.
So that I think that's another reason why it's so special. It's like I'd love to share with my grandchildren and those after. Um, there was a time that this wasn't a busy street.
Right, exactly. There was a town named Innocence, perhaps not literally, but certainly figuratively, that's for sure.
You
Donna
bet.
Lynd has written a wonderful book. She is by trade a writer and a playwright, and she has ventured into the world of mystery novels, first with Leaving Innocence, a Gran Olson mystery, and perhaps with her next book, which will working title now, Innocence Waylaid. Both center on a woman named Gran Olson, who is a retired MASH nurse who has a penchant for justice and is willing to pay the price, literally.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, Donna.
Thank you so much. It was really delightful to get to speak with you. Thank you again.
I appreciate it. Delightful speaking with you as well. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.